The sun's out. It's a glorious day. Let's take a look at what we're sowing in February. Welcome to Veggie Patch Ideas. Right, okay, so let's start things off, and we'll keep things nice and simple to start with. Leeks and spring onions. So we'll go and fill this up now, and for this one we're just using normal garden compost, just a multi-purpose compost. Here we go, and we sow these in exactly the same way. So we'll do our leeks and then our spring onions, and it is simply just a case of making sure the seeds are at the bottom of the pack when I rip it open for a start. And with this I'll put 2 or 3, possibly 4 per cell. The simple reason is, as they grow up into maturer seedlings, we then separate them out. With spring onions, we leave them in the cell and they'll form clumps, and we'll plant the actual plug straight into the ground. So leeks are a little bit different, but when it comes to the time of year when we move them, then I'll show you what we need to do. And that reminds me, we've got so much sowing coming on in the next few weeks. It's always worth subscribing, and you're not going to miss anything then, just to get your garden in the best shape possible. I always oversow my leeks. The seeds are cheap enough, and some will fail. It's better to have more than not enough at all. So that goes straight on the top like that, and then we just mix the compost up just so they're very just under the surface of the soil, and then we're good to go. And with that, we'll give her a water in. We'll put her to one side and water them all at the same time. But these spring onions, and these are white Lisbon, they're great this time of year. We sow them in exactly the same way. Seeds look identical. So you lay them over the top and just pat them down. And that will be that tray done. Put your labels in. Right, moving on. Let's do Kailan Kichi. And this is, I'm beginning to love these seed trays more and more. I've got some chilies already gone in these, and they've come out really well. So this is one of my favorite vegetables to grow. It's a Chinese cabbage, well, Chinese broccoli stroke cabbage. We harvest it for the leaves, and it's great for stir fries, soups, and that sort of thing. So we'll go ahead and fill this up, but we'll fill it with a different type of compost. We'll go for John Innings #1, and we'll do that now. This compost is very, very low in nutrients. It is the first of a John Innings, so the numbers mean the nutrient level. So 1 is very, very low, and it is basically for seed sowing and starting off seeds. 2 has double the nutrients. 3 has triple the nutrients. So you see where we're going with that. So tray's full, pop her in the bait, and this seed tray does have the squidgy bottoms, which we like, and these are ready to go. So not only it's quite an exotic one, but I like to do something different every year, and this one I did a few years back, and I just fell in love with it. So you get quite a lot of seeds per pack. You get 100 seeds per pack, so you can be generous. And they literally look like kale seeds, little round balls. And I'll put 2 per cell. There we go. And then we just pat them down as usual. Or you could just sprinkle some soil over the top. And these are then ready to be watered. Right, so that looks good. And we'll put this on the finished pile. Right, tomatoes. Now Monty Don started his in January, because I know, because he posted. So what we got, I'm going to do for all these hanging baskets, tumbling toms, and it should look absolutely peachy when it's up and done, because there are 8 baskets, so I'm expecting good things. We're also doing a tomato super steak F1, which is a nice beef tomato, and then we're doing tomato tigerella, which is a lovely striped tomato. Now with these there will be a different succession of sowing tomatoes coming in probably a couple of weeks time, where I'll do money makers and another variety maybe first in field. So we'll start now. We'll get these on the heat for a week, and then we're ready to sow another. We want them to germinate, move them off the heat, and then sow another batch. So let's fill this up now. Okay, so this one is going to be a new one on you, so bear with me. Multi-purpose compost into the very bottom of the trays. Don't fill them up, just into the bottom 1 centimetre or 1.5 of the seed tray. Like so. And then we'll go with a John Innes number 1 to top them all off. Now I know some of you are screaming at the TV saying, Glenn, what are you doing? But the tomatoes, well, these are quite large seed trays, and the tomatoes, they will stay in here for quite a while. I will let them get quite big, and I won't pop them on just yet, because these trays hold a lot of moisture, a lot of dirt. So with that little bit of extra compost at the very bottom, it just provides the extra nutrients for when the roots reach right down to the bottom. So the John Innes number 1 at the top, and it's a fair chunk of John Innes number 1, will start the seeds off, and it will start them off perfectly. And then as it gets down to the bottom, you've got that rich layer of multi-purpose compost, which should feed the seedlings as they grow, and it just means I don't have to pop them on as fast. I've done this way a few times before and it's always worked. If you're unsure, just go Innes number 1 all the way, or in the past I've just used multi-purpose compost and it's worked. So whatever works for you, this is what works for me. So let's start with Tigerella. It's a new one on me this year. They are a stripy tomato, looks like a tiger, looks quite fun, so I thought I'd grow it just for something different. And all my tomatoes will be grown in the polytunnel. Okay, I'm going to try and leave the greenhouse for chilies this year, chilies and peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers in the polytunnel. So I'm going to go 2 seeds per cell. And there we are. Next up, let's do the super steak. Oh, I love a beef tomato. Great on barbecues. A nice thick slab of tomato on your burger. Plant-based or meat, either way. They are sparing with seeds in this packet, I think. Let's see if I don't lose them. Got about 10. So let's go 1 seed per cell. And then next up we go with tumbling toms. And if you haven't grown this before, it's one for your hanging baskets. And it does what it says on the tin. They actually tumble down loads of tomatoes. So by me having 8 baskets, I think I'm going to have just far too many cherry tomatoes, but I'd sooner have more than less. And we'll just see how it gets on as the season goes. So we'll start with a very old seed packet first, just to get rid of the seeds. And that's that done. They went quick. And then the new seed packet for this season. I do like to finish off old seed packets. Some of them may not germinate, so always better to have backups. And because we're so early on in the season, it doesn't really matter if they fail now. You can just start in March. You're absolutely fine. I did an experiment one year between sowing in March and sowing in February. There's not really a lot in it. They look great early on in the season, but they tend to fruit and grow in the summer towards the same sort of end. So it doesn't really matter. It's just nice getting in early and using the heat uh, while it's available, and it's not clogged up with peppers and cucumbers and all the rest of it, aubergines. So I try and stagger them out. Again, another seed packet which is very stingy with the seeds. I hope I'm going to get 8, to be fair, that germinate. So that could be interesting. Right, I'll cover these over and we'll give her water. So as I said, there's quite a lot to get through, so let's move straight on. In between videos, I have done broad beans and I have done another tray of onions. So they're done. And if you don't know how I sow these, look back on previous videos and we'll show you there. But for this one, we're going with a selection of different things, and I'm just doing a couple of lines of each, or 1 line of each, because the main sowing will be in March. I just want to get a head start and see what germinates and get a feel for what's going on. So let's go ahead and fill this up. Just try and remove any lumps that you can. Not that John Enen should have lumps, but it does. But right, okay, let's start off with lettuce, and this is Moon Red. And again, this is for a smaller garden. It does make a very red, compact plant. And new one on me this year, I've got a set in the house at the moment which haven't germinated, which sowed last month, which is kind of worrying. So I do like to give some seeds a second chance. Why, I'll do another line and I'll be generous and I'll put 3 or 4 seeds per cell. And then, keeping on the lettuce theme, we'll go with Lolla Rossa. Makes a lovely lettuce, this does. Got nice little red tinges to the leaf tips, the more mature as it gets. So, and they are very generous with the seeds. It's always a good thing. So again, one line of those. Next up, we're going to go for a spinach, and this one is called Giganti. It meant to be very, very large leaves. It didn't do me very well later on in the season, so we'll give it a go. Spring now, so different conditions. I'm going to go 2 per cell, just in case one fails, and then we'll see how we get on. And then we'll go for another type of spinach, which is Apollo F1. And these are all in plugs. You can sow them direct into the ground, works absolutely perfect. But if you are going to do it that way, I would leave it until after March. So we want an early start on these, so that's why we're doing it in plugs. And in general, I do everything in plugs, easier to manage, and then it's easier to space them out and get really good germination. So I'm a firm believer in the plug. So 2 in each. There we go. And these are a very posh packet from Johnson's, and they even give you your own little label. Look at that. Job done. So that, and then we'll go with one line of Brussels sprouts, and we'll do these early. These don't really need to be done till March, but again, get an early start. I will sow a second succession of these later on, and that will be the ones that I'll then eat for Christmas dinner. So these are my early Brussels. I can get into the seed packet, put my label in, because I will forget. And these seeds look very, very, very much like kale seeds, brassica seeds. There we go. Don't need to go over top on these. Get things back in the packet. Right, done. Then broccoli. Again, this is an F1 hybrid. It's called Atlantis. Good for this time of year. And again, it's an early start, so one line. I do like to grow a full bed of broccoli, so I like loads of this stuff. So I start early. If they don't germinate, March is always your winner, but I can keep an eye on these and see where we go. And then if these come through and the March ones don't, I have to sow again in March. I'll have 2 successions of broccoli, because we don't want all our veg coming out at the same time. So it's good to stage, and that's why I said it's worthwhile subscribing, just so you know when we're sowing at what point in the season, and when we repeat sow. That's more important. So that's that done. And then finally, let's get some lettuce on the go. because at the minute my lettuce is horrendous. And this one is the round lettuce, and it's summer too. I'm going to be very generous with this one. And again, lettuce seeds, they give you an absolute ton, so you can be more generous than other seeds. And that's it. We'll poke these down and then we'll go ahead and water the lot. As always, guys, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.